African as it comes. There's no other place on the planet that one can say that a braid originated from. So where does the term French braid comes from? Now, I'm one of those people that gets irritated by semantics. I'm bothered by it. I think that language is important. I think that when we say things that we should convey it with a good, in a good way. It should mean what we say, etc., etc., especially when it comes to African identity and African culture and African things, that we really have to take ownership and lay claim to it. And so when I hear the term French braid, which by the way I've never used to describe any braid that I've put in my hair, but other people and other Africans do, I'm just like, well, this seems like an oxymoron. I know that braids didn't come from France. I mean, I just knew that. Braids came from my mama and my mama's mama and my mama's mama and my daddy and all those black people. Braiding was never ever something that I associated with white people in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So where did the term French braiding come from? Well, just did a little Googling on the internet and went on Wikipedia. And then there was another blog that basically cited the same source, that in 1871, there was a little article put in a ladies' home magazine that basically advertised the new hairstyle. And the new hairstyle was called the French braid. And any lady that was worth her weight in gold had to have this hairstyle. And I thought it was particularly important to note that even in those early years of using the term French braid, that it was also called tres africains, or African braid. And so they knew it back then that it was something that came out of Africa. The French braid is nothing more than a cornrow that is done on straight hair. European interactions with Africans, there were a lot of things that came out of Africa and spread across Europe. Number one, religion, history, science, mathematics, styles. Where do we think the bustle comes from? It's from mimicking African women's bodies. Of course, the big butt. You wouldn't see that come into style until after there's a lot of interaction with African people and African women. And so that's one thing. But so the French braid, or braiding in and of itself, became popular with Europeans through their interaction with African people. Now, one of the first interactions with African people were with the Greeks and the Romans and Egypt and Sudan, Ethiopia, and that northern African area. However, braiding was all over Africa, and we can see this through art, whether it's paintings or sculpture or any other part of the cultures that would basically tell of their life. And even as we see through European art with interactions with Africans, you will see that in their depictions of Africans have braids in their hair already, and they have gold, and they have twists, and they have all these things that would indicate that they were the originators of the thing. And so why talk about it? Why really make a big deal out of French braiding? I mean, basically it's a cornrow or cane row, and even then, cane row and cornrow is not the original name of the braid. Matter of fact, there probably was no name for it. It was just something that mimicked something in nature, most likely. So why make a big deal out of the name? Well, like I said before, it gives power to it. It's a name. Whether you call yourself Mary or you call yourself Ife or Batu or some African powerful name, there's meaning in names. There's meaning in calling yourself an African American or an African. When we talk about things that are African, I think it's important that we really lay claim to it. It's ours to claim, and if we just give it up so freely, then it just continues to be given up, and then eventually there's not going to be anybody talking about where the hell the French braiding come from. It would just be known that it's a French braid and it didn't come from Africa, just like people believe that that you know, ancient Egyptians were African. You know, just the most ridiculous types of things because we let it go. And so I'm not saying beat people over the head with it, but I'm just saying just lay claim to it and really understand what it is. And if you're one of those Africans who uses the term French braid to describe your African hair and your African braiding style, I would implore you to reconsider using that term. So words have power. French braiding is not French, it's African.